Welcome, Whiteman Warriors, to Practicing the Pillars podcast, where you lead yourself first, others will line up to follow. I'm Tech Sergeant Kimberly Desilus. I'm the Wing Resiliency Coordinator for Whiteman Air Force Base, and I am sitting here today with Nicole Termini, the licensed clinical social worker for the 509th Munitions Squadron, and Master Sergeant Joshua White, the NCOIC of Honor Guard, who is actually getting ready to transition back to public health.
Unfortunately, I'm leaving the best job I've ever had.
Oh, well, I bet you will take a lot of your experience back to your career field.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to be talking about the Comprehensive Airman Fitness model. It's got 4 pillars, and the 4 pillars are the mental pillar, social pillar, our physical pillar, and our spiritual pillar. All of these, to me, whenever I think about the 4 pillars, I think about kind of a chair, if you will. You sit on a chair and there's 4 legs that hold you up. And if you remove one of those legs, that chair now becomes unstable. And the more that you remove, the less likely it's going to be able to hold your weight. So whenever I think about this model, I think about how you have to have a very equal balance and strength and skill set in each of these 4 pillars. So we're going to talk a little bit first about the physical aspect.
Yes. So I think, during this time, it's really easy to become complacent. It's really easy to kind of lose that standard of ourselves. And I noticed for me, if I ever kind of take a break or I let myself down, it starts to kind of it's like a slow burn, right? So I think it's super important to, during this downtime for a lot of people are alone, to stay on top of these pillars. To start with physical, I've never been flexible in my entire life, okay? And now that I'm 35, I noticed that I'm starting to finally get knee issues when doing long-distance running. And so I listened to David Goggins' audiobook, and towards the end, and this guy's like a physical phenomenon, right? Navy SEAL. And towards the end of his book, he runs into a lot of physical ailments, and he fixes it by getting flexible. Finally, he comes to a point in his life where he realizes that's what he needs to do, and he starts stretching for like hours each day from all the damage that he's done to his body. And so during this time, I've been stretching 1 to 2 times a day, anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes. I have a stretching app. And so it's actually really peaceful. You get some really good breathing in. And, at first I hated the feeling of it. I've always hated the feeling of stretching. It's just something I do not enjoy. But I found myself relaxing, and I'm getting deeper in those stretches. I'm finding, it just feels more natural as time goes on. And I started running outside again, and knee pain is not there.
So what app are you using?
Let's see. I'm using, it's called More Stretching, Less Stressing. Oh, that's pretty clever. More Stretching, Less Stressing. And I do the post-run app, or the post-run stretch is the one that I like. It's 5 minutes long, 12 different stretch positions. And after each time I do it, I just feel limber. I feel good. Blood's flowing. I got some deep breathing in. Highly recommend it.
That's awesome. I also have an app called ROMWOD. So it's like kind of like workout of the day, range of motion workout of the day. And but similar with you, a lot of us were all home or teleworking or different schedules with the coronavirus right now. And it's so easy to just, you see your couch, you see your bed,
you see your refrigerator.
Yeah, you see your refrigerator. Absolutely. Such a good point. Yeah. And, and you're kind of bored too. So, boredom eating is like.
Emotional eating is huge. And yes, boredom is part of that.
Yeah, boredom and emotional eating. If we're alone, just kind of feeling sorry for ourselves, not taking care of ourselves, being able to find that purpose and stay kind of in a similar schedule too of working out or stretching, yoga, mindfulness. I think that's excellent. I personally know for a fact I have so many ailments and I've got knee pain all the time, my right knee specifically. And I know stretching would be a big help. And so I have the ROMWOD app. It takes a little bit longer. They're usually between 15 and like 30 minutes for the workout, but I mean, just as you said, like you probably see a significant improvement with this extra time that we have. There's almost no excuse.
Right, there's no excuse.
Another great thing about stretching is, Josh, you mentioned it, that time of breathing and mindfulness. And, for people who don't like to just do that focused breathing or that deep breathing, but still need that tension release, it's a great way to just stretch out your muscles and release all the tension from the day or the week or the work week. And so whenever someone comes to talk to me about having sleep issues, that's one of the things I always encourage, whether it's the first thing you do when you get up in the morning or you do it before you go to bed. It's just a great way to kind of work all the kinks out and take that moment to just kind of relax and,
And I started small too. I started with just the 5-minute stretching. I thought I could do this for 5 minutes,
Absolutely.
I can find 5 minutes, and it's become, for someone like me who's just, I'm always on the move. I can't stand sitting in one spot. And being mindful is a challenge to me, and the stretching has kind of incorporated mindfulness into my daily routine, and it makes it a lot easier.
And for those that are, have kids at home, especially kids that are little and they're really getting bored with all this quarantine, it's a great way to get the family involved too, because, to them it's going to be a great game, but it's also going to be good for them, and without them knowing, and it's good for you because it motivates you to do it every day. So it's also a good way to kind of get the family together.
And to add, then you don't have kids running around, and as soon as you're like in a pose,
right,
you hear something crash and you're like, what was that? So
stress level right back up again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My daughter's been stretching with me. It's adorable. And then my son, he's just climbing all over me. So it's pretty fun.
Baby airplane pose, where you're
Exactly.
laying on the floor and you're flying them over your head on your feet.
You can use kids so much for all types of stuff. Like,
you can curl them,
Absolutely. I have my daughter on my back doing squats,
There you go.
or walking lunges, and they just think it's fun. And she's 8, so she's big too. But hey, you got to do what you got to do to make it work.
I have a hill in my backyard, so I throw my daughter over my shoulder and just start sprinting those hills. And she's like, "What are you doing?"
She thinks
I'm
it's
I'm
fun.
getting stronger.
Yeah, and we talked about like mindfulness to it also, but I'm very similar to you, Josh. I hate just like so I'll sit still to like watch a TV show or a movie, kind of. Sometimes I'll still be on my phone, but so not always perfectly present in that moment. So stretching can get boring and whatnot, but the more you, like you say, you sit in the pose, the more you think, like you're able to focus on those muscles that you're stretching. You kind of have to, so that you can like remind yourself you have to relax them, because the deeper you go, it hurts a little bit more. So you have to like stay relaxed. Otherwise you're kind of working against yourself, but it just adds to the mindfulness.
I've only been doing it for like 3 weeks, but I could already feel all these different muscles stretching now that I didn't feel before, and different techniques and ways that I'm doing it. It's starting to change, and it's I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
You need to start doing it.
Yeah, having the, I even, like I said, I have that app. Having that guided discussion or having that guided video where it shows you, I'm assuming yours shows you what to do.
Right.
So having that guided video showing you and them sitting in that same position for the same amount of time, to me, that almost helps me, because it's like, okay, well, they're doing it, I can do it. It almost makes me feel like I'm in person in a class where I don't want to stop. I don't want to shortchange myself. So,
and I lose count too. So that's another reason
true.
why it's so helpful, because I don't want to sit there and count in my head.
Or have to constantly mess with your phone
Right.
to put the timer on or something. So that's
and it has a
definitely
timer.
nice.
And when it gets to 3, 2, 1, it beeps. There's a rest time in between, so you can get set up for the next pose, and it's perfect.
Yeah, with this time being where it's so easy to get complacent. And honestly, you almost like feed that habit. If you choose not to work out, or you choose not to stretch or do something physical, it's so much easier to like continue into complacency.
Absolutely.
Not just in like a physical sense, but in all of what you're doing in all of your life,
Yeah, I'm trying to stay focused on how I want my days to play out. That book that I mentioned last time, Flow, it talks a lot about being proactive instead of reactive. And the more we're reactive, like a perfect example of being reactive is scrolling through Facebook. You're trying to find something to entertain you, so you're just aimlessly looking for things, and that does not promote happiness at all. It's what this
No, it does the opposite, I think.
Right. And this book has really opened my eyes to that, and how we need to always be purposeful with whatever we're doing and put our all into that moment. So if we're playing with our kids, let's put everything we have into that moment, have fun with them, spend time with them.
Get back to being present.
Yeah, being present. If you're working out, stop looking at your phone,
That's something
you're there to work out. You're not there to scroll on Facebook.
Well, and especially with the limits that we have right now. I mean, a lot of people are used to going to the gym and using those kind of machines. And if you don't have anything at home to do that, then stretching or using your kids as your workout weight, whatever that looks like, this is something you can do everywhere. So like you said, being proactive. If you find yourself scrolling through your phone, put it away, get up, make yourself stretch. If you see yourself walking towards the refrigerator for the umpteenth time, stop and do some stretches or do some jumping jacks or, run in place. Just
Drink
something
some
to
water.
that's actually a great idea. Drink some water before you eat that snack, because, 9 times out of 10, you really don't need it. You're just bored, and it's something to do. And like you said, it affects your mental health or your emotional health, because the more you eat, obviously you're going to start kind of gaining weight or getting out of shape, and that's going to hurt your self-esteem, and it just becomes a very vicious cycle. So, interrupting that cycle early on, doing the stretching or the exercise, or just, I like what you said, Josh, being more proactive about your day, scheduling your day, because that's part of my mental health schedule is, adhering to a schedule. I get up around the same time every day, and it's not whenever I wake up. It's 6 o'clock, or 6:30, because I know it's important to stick to that routine, because eventually we will go back to it.
And it's going to be a lot harder trying to readjust into something.
And so, trying to, I still keep my planner, and I try and set time over, this is my work time. This is checking my email or trying to get logged on kind of time. This is my phone call time, so that it's not just, it doesn't feel so aimless, that there's kind of a purpose for each day. Because I think when we lose our purpose is when we find ourselves to kind of sink into bad habits and start doing other stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to talk about something that you had said, but I've been trying to keep my same schedule too. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I did find was going to bed. It's so easy to push off, or watching. Yeah. We're doing a lot of probably TV watching or binge watching, and you're like, oh, I just want to watch one more episode and stuff. And then if you set an alarm or being purposeful, that's what I was going to say, is with your purposeful action, setting timers on your apps so that you're not scrolling aimlessly.
That's a great idea.
That's something, that I've done is I put an hour limit on each of my thing. And, you have the option to override it if you want to. But at least it's something that pops up in your face oh, I've been on for this time.
It's a subtle reminder. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it tells you, hey, it's time to get off, But finding that purpose. Also, we have, so much time now. We can be using this time to do something to better ourselves, and it may not necessarily be, it can be physical and doing all these other things, but what is something new that we might be trying to do?
Right.
Or trying to learn about something that maybe we didn't have enough time to do before, like reading books. Now trying to find that time for self-care.
Remember all those times we said, if I have more time or when I have some time, I'm going to read this or I'm going to do that. Well,
here we are.
Right, here we are. And then yesterday on my Mid-Continent Library app popped up an email, and they're offering free online languages. It's how many of us have always said, oh, I need to learn a new language, or I'd like to, learn some Spanish or whatever. Well, now you have these opportunities, and because of the pandemic, a lot of these opportunities are now free. So there's no excuse. We have the time. We don't have to expend any kind of, monetary cost there. And so there's no more excuses. It's let's put this time to good use.
That's really cool. I've always wanted to learn sign language,
right?
And I'll have to look into that because I do have the time now.
Yeah.
So.
I think they said there's 10 or 12 virtual languages on there that you can learn. And it's, awesome. It's just your local library. You just need a library card to log in. And I'm sure there's a way they're doing that for people as well, how to get your library card if you don't already have one.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, we were going to talk a little bit about spirituality, and I know mindfulness comes into it. We've touched a little bit on that, but I know you wanted to add a little bit more to it.
Sure. So, when I say spiritual, I don't necessarily mean religion. I think spirituality is definitely an individual thing for me, it's something I practice while I'm practicing my physical pillar, because that's my alone time when I'm out on a run or a walk. That's when I kind of process whatever emotions are going through my head. And a lot of the time I'm worried about my kids, or I'm worried about my parents, especially right now because one of my daughters is a nurse. My parents are in the critical zone as far as age goes, and their susceptibility to this virus. And so that's when I take my time to pray, to reflect, to ask for strength to continue to help, be a positive in other people's lives. And so I kind of blend those two pillars together because I'm working on my physical self, but I'm also working on my spiritual self and really even my mental self, because that's where I, am thinking up new ways to reach my members to make sure that they're okay at this time when we're all kind of cut off from each other. Because that social pillar is even more challenging right now. It's like, how do you connect with people? So
I know that with spirituality and stuff, when you do, Josh, when you're doing physical, like your physical activities or your stretching and stuff, do you connect that as well to your spirituality?
I think the running, absolutely, because, I have a hard time, like I said, sitting still and being mindful when you're running. I don't know, it just puts your mind in a different zone.
Yeah. Well, and you're out in nature and you're kind of taking
beautiful.
in the sights, and you just do. You feel, it's a really great opportunity to just kind of realign everything, your mental, your physical, your spiritual.
I don't even listen to music sometimes when I run around Lions Lake in Warrensburg, just because there's so much nature out there. There's so many birds, there's raccoons, deer. I mean, everything. It's like you're just out in the middle of nature, and I just love hearing it.
Yeah.
It really just puts me at peace when I'm running, and I always just feel so much better. I feel like I can just take on the world, when I'm done with those runs. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes I feel like we know what's good for us. We know what we should be doing. We don't always do it. And I think it's
absolutely
so important to stick with it. We all have this vision of like our best self in our mind.
Right.
And I notice when I'm not meeting that expectation, it starts to kind of dial you back. It's like you're either going up or you're going down.
Well, something to really key in on is what you said, that you feel so much better after you've done your run or completed that workout. And I feel the same way. I also feel like I have more energy and motivation to get things done throughout the day versus if I get up and I go straight to that sofa and I start flipping through channels or scrolling through social media.
So much harder to get up and get off.
It is. Your motivation is just zapped, and you look up and it's like, wow, where did the time go? But if you make yourself, even if it's not a rigid routine, but you make yourself get dressed and get into your workout gear. That's my biggest thing is if I can just get myself motivated to get dressed down to my shoes, my workout shoes and everything, then 9 times out of 10, I'm going.
Yeah. And we talked about that a little bit the last time, is just how important it is to take that first step in that direction.
Yeah. You got to, that's your mental game. We all know we want to be in shape. We want to be our best selves, but it's hard to find that motivation. And so doing that one thing, getting dressed, getting prepared, however you prepare for your pre-workout, and getting to that finish line, that's your first finish line, then you're more likely to go out and do it. And then you feel so much better having done it. It's done, it's out of the way. Now you have all this energy, you're feeling kind of motivated. So what do we tackle next? And it just sets a really good pattern, to check off those goals or those tasks for the day. Absolutely.
I mean, I still wake up at like 5:30 just so that I can go ahead and get my day started and get my workout in, whatever that looks like. And honestly, body weight workouts, to me, for somebody that goes to the gym, and I typically like to lift, heavier weight, body workouts are hard. Mm-hmm. They really are. And they require that flexibility that you talked about. You really have to, and you have to be careful. You have to, and be, mindful of the way that you're doing it and your positioning and stuff, because you could hurt yourself. So
and get creative, because
exactly.
you may not have the machines available.
Exactly. And now there's so much creativity that goes into it. I have actually used social media quite a bit for trying to figure out how to work out effectively.
Did you see the paint buckets filled with concrete and the pole in between?
I've seen some crazy things. Honestly, it's really cool to see how people have just, it almost makes you wonder, like, do you really need, some of these things that we have, like, while they're niceties, they're not necessities,
No, they're convenient.
Yeah, they're just convenient and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I can't wait, go back to the gym and get back into some type of a routine, but you really see, like, what we're able to do and what we're capable of doing when we think outside of that box.
I think we're definitely testing our creativity again. Mm-hmm. We're not relying as much on these conveniences as we once did because we can't. They're closed.
Yeah, and I mean, we're taking and extending that creativity like out elsewhere, right? Outside of the physical realm, but even into like the social scene. I've seen around base people doing like the bear hunt. I'm not sure.
That was great.
Do you live on base? You did.
I love all these.
I did it off base.
Off base? Okay.
Yeah,
they have it off base too?
In my neighborhood in Warrensburg.
Well, I was going to say the
noticed
parades,
bears.
for birthdays. A friend of mine's up in Iowa and her twins turned 12, I think it was. And the whole neighborhood, they did the signs and the cars, the motorcades, if you will. And I think that's been great. The bear hunt was great. And then just recently, even how Whiteman saluted the essential workers, with the planes, there was so much, there was so much positive feedback on that. I think that just really did a lot for morale outside in our communities, as far as Kansas City. I know that the healthcare workers were really, really appreciative of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just think that there's so much that we never realize how easily we can come together as a community, as, coworkers and people that strangers and just everybody in general until something crazy happens, something unexpected or scary or, upsetting, some form of trauma or something. And then we want to come together, but it's like, then over time we start to lose that, but being able to find that creativity to maintain it and stuff. Maybe, once birthday parties happen, we don't necessarily need to do these drive-bys, but still having that creativity to bring other people together, rally them up, and maintain our friendships, our relationships, or extend a helping hand to other people.
If nothing else, it's showing us how strong we are because, we are having to think outside the box and we're still doing it. And, it's the response to get everybody what they need, whether it's a psychological support line or, the virtual appointments through the med clinics or whatever, everyone has stepped up and found a way to help other people. And I think that's why we're doing so well is that we have all these resources and it's a great thing to know that they're there. And maybe that's why, people haven't needed them as much, they're testing their own resiliency. They're building their own resiliency.
Absolutely. I know, I'm sure some of you, or I'm sure you guys could probably attest to this, but you probably have struggled in some area a little bit with these changes. I know for me, I do feel like a little bit more of a lack of purpose since I'm not, coming into work and doing my job to the fullest the way that we were, still working hard, but your scope of influence just kind of dramatically decreases, and the things that you're able to do now we have to make shift to try and have it occur. So what are some of the things that you guys have been doing to either find purpose within yourself, within work, or maybe even extend it out to other people like the community?
So my biggest struggle has been the social distancing because I'm a social worker. I'm used to being out in the squadron.
It's in your title.
I'm embedded. Hello, it is in my title, and so I really missed that part of my day walking around the squadron and checking in with people just to say hello or have a conversation. And I was one of those people who really stayed off social media because of all the negativity. And now that's my venue. I have to use it to reach my members. And so it's been a real kind of paradigm shift for me because I have to go use something that I really detest. I hate Facebook, but that's how I meet, that's how I reach my members. And it's actually been great. So then I just have to set boundaries. I don't, like we talked about before, I set that boundary to where I'm not scrolling through Facebook. I'm using it to go on the Munition Squadron Facebook page to see what people are talking about so I can identify resources to let them know that I'm still available here for them, both active duty and dependents, and get kind of, use that as a way to be social, not optimal, but where we are today. So that's kind of been my biggest struggle is because I am of a generation that really enjoys being out and having that purpose, going, sticking to that schedule, get up, go to work, spend 8 or 10 hours there and then come home and do that. So, just kind of redesigning everything, if you will. Yeah.
And you mentioned about, you being that generation that does, that wants to be out. Right. Mm-hmm. And now we're working with, our younger airmen, our 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds that just kind of came out. That's a different generation.
And they're thriving. They love this.
They are, absolutely, because they get to be home, They get to relax. And, they work hard, but but now they get to be kind of isolate themselves, and
well, they're getting to use what they're most comfortable with, you know,
which is the social medias
Right,
and like the
right.
gaming and stuff like that to socialize.
because they do a lot of socializing that way. You know, they're playing their games, but they're also talking to their friends, you know, wherever they may be, and so for them, yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen a whole lot of struggles in that area. So
Right.
it's just, you know, taking what you have and working with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it can get, I'm sure they're enjoying it, but us as supervisors or, mentors, other people that can kind of see or be involved with them, just checking in, seeing how they're doing or if they need anything or just something along that, just to make sure, because getting stuck behind a video game or stuck on social media and stuff, scrolling for hours, I think, as you said before, it can lead to like a negative impact on the individual, especially when we return back to somewhat of a normal status.
Right. And how fast is that going to happen? You know, how are they going to be able to adjust right back into mainstream, or are they going to struggle with that? So just, being aware of that.
Yeah, the time management piece, I think, will be kind of a difficult thing because if they're up late at night partying or whatever in their dorms,
Not a big deal right
gaming
now,
stuff right
but-
now, yeah, absolutely. But going back to it, and it's a Wednesday, they got to be up at 6 and they were playing until 3. That's a struggle.
Yeah.
So, how about you, Josh? Have you had any areas where you would say you struggled?
So I'm the same way, social. So in Honor Guard, we have 30 airmen. We're always doing big things. We're always doing events. We're always having a good time. And to just, go to just nothing,
Right.
no more events, no more lunch and learns, no more anything like that. I was thriving in that environment. And so to just dial it back to the point where it doesn't even exist right now, I really struggle with that because my mind is like, what's going on? My mind's still looking to be productive in a sense, but I didn't have that social pillar. And so what I've done is, and I took a lot of free time for Facebook. I love Facebook. I love putting my thoughts on there. I love reaching out to people on there.
Well, you've been doing the Whiteman outreach, right?
Right,
You did the Whiteman outreach, kind of a takeoff from the Air Force One, and
Right.
you've been very proactive when it comes to stuff like that. I think that's been a great way for you to kind of find purpose
Absolutely.
and assist others.
And kind of get to know people on your base too, which
Absolutely.
is super cool. So yeah, I love social media, but I didn't have too much time for it, and so the little time I did put towards it, I think was healthy. And I think in this environment, it's unhealthy because it's just there all the time. So for me, with a family and having all this time at home, I've actually gotten rid of Facebook right now, and I'm taking my social pillar and I'm using it to really understand and get to know my 2 children and to spend more quality time with them and my wife, and to try to get into the more mindfulness mindset. That is more of a challenge that I'm looking for. I'm looking for ways to stay engaged, to stay challenged, and to kind of broaden my horizons. So I've really enjoyed just kind of dialing it back and just spending really good time with my kids, seeing them smile, finding creative ways to have fun with my family. So that's kind of how I've been fulfilling my social pillar.
That's great.
What are some of the things that you guys have been doing?
We've been getting really creative. So, I mean, like just this morning, for instance, we go on morning walks. My daughter just learned how to ride her bike with training wheels, and she is loving it. I mean, she cannot get enough of it. So just, seeing her do that, my son's in the stroller, I'll jog with him a little bit, catch back up with my wife.
So you're
and
doing your physical and your social at the same
Absolutely.
time. There you go.
And then in our backyard, we bought her a little playhouse, and she noticed some weeds kind of look like asparagus, she mentioned. And so she'll take it in her little house, and she'll start cooking the asparagus, and she'll want us to pretend to eat it. I mean, it could be any little thing.
Right.
Like,
Just being present and being there.
right.
Yeah, and they'll treasure this time, I mean, we may not think how impactful it really is, but it really will go, long term, have great benefits.
I
family
absolutely
time.
agree. Yeah, I mean, with my daughter, I mean, she, she's older, not old, but she's about to be 9, and before all of this, we might get, I would say probably like 3 hours before it's, like homework, and you're just doing a routine really at that point.
Right.
You guys get home. She's got all her extracurriculars and stuff. By the time we get home, we're lucky if we got like an hour truly together, and that still takes up the food, and like you got to get dinner, you got to get in the shower, you got to get stuff ready for the next day. And so there's really no true quality time up until like the weekend.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things I agree with you, is just being able to be more present and taking advantage of this time. Because
Oh yeah, it's been great. I mean, I have teenagers, and so social distancing was a thing before it was a thing. Because they live in their rooms.
They don't want to
or
be
they're
around
at
you.
school, or they're with their friends, or they're at
Absolutely.
work. And now that they can't really do any of that, yeah, they get up and they do their schoolwork or whatever. But I'm cooking maybe 3 meals a day, where I used to be lucky to maybe get one in,
Yes.
right? If it wasn't fast food. And so, they're coming out of their rooms a lot more. I'm getting a lot of more one-on-one time with my youngest. And I have one who's going to be graduating, and so helping her get her college courses together. And before, I feel like we would barely have enough time to do that. But now we do definitely get to spend a lot more family time together.
That's awesome.
That's been nice.
There's an app I want to recommend too. I need to get on this app. My wife has it. It's called Marco Polo.
I feel like I might have heard that.
What is it?
So I don't know if you're like me, but if you're like me, sometimes I don't call people who I haven't spoke to in a long time, especially if I'm busy, because I don't want to be wrangled into like a 2-hour conversation.
Oh, okay.
Catching up and
Right, I don't wanna-
Sometimes I understand that.
I'm just that type of person where if I'm in the mood and I have the time, I will call that person. But if I
Right.
don't have the time, I'm like, I don't know if I can, call this person and talk for 2 hours straight. So we oftentimes put off those old friends, maybe at a previous base or a family member we haven't spoke to in a while. And my wife has this app, Marco Polo, with all her friends, where it's basically like a group chat, a group video chat, where you just record your message and it gets put in to like an inbox and everyone can watch it at their own time. So they're communicating on their own time.
It's kind of like instead of a text message, it's like a video message, and you're just like, hey, how's it going, type of thing.
Right. So like I'll see her scrolling through and watching all of her friends' little videos, and they're really funny. Like they're day drinking and like just being goofy. And then I'll see my wife filming her little 2 seconds. So they're still communicating, but it's on their own time, and it's for like little snippets. And I've noticed for her, it's really kept her motivated, engaged, and she's connecting with her friends, even when she hasn't spoken to in a long time. And I'm like, I need to get on that. Like, that is genius. So
yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
I wanted to recommend the app, to anyone
Marco
out there.
Polo.
Yep.
I think that's really cool. Especially like you said, it's hard to just pause your life to be on the phone. I think that's why so many people like text messaging and, video, like maybe a video like Snapchat, where they can like just kind of show what they're doing and stuff. But it's not that takes away being personal with that individual, but it's hard to pause your life for a couple hours and, have to carry your phone everywhere to have a conversation. And
Absolutely.
so I think that's really cool. I'll have to check that out. I know for myself, like I've been using House Party. Now, granted, it's not a video where you can send little videos to each other, but I like it because if you do have the time where you can just kind of sit down, you can like play games with other people and, drink, like you said, day drinking or whatever with your friends, set up like a Netflix movie night or something and have a few beers or a glass of wine with your friends. And, it just maintains a little bit of that social piece. And I know that's one thing you both mentioned, that you kind of struggle a little bit with social, and I would say I do too. I think, to be 100% truthful, I feel like I've struggled a little bit in all areas. I would definitely say social and mental has probably been like the two of my biggest ones. And we've talked a little bit about social, but mental really stems from me struggling in the other areas, like the physical piece, because I'm not going to the gym the way that I used to. And I have to find or be creative to get a decent workout in, and that's hard for me. I just want to go in, sit on a machine, and do what I normally do, So seeing like the changes, eating, I've gotten really complacent with some of my eating too, and it's bad. And we didn't even talk about nutrition really, but nutrition plays a big factor in how you feel.
Absolutely.
And eating one thing can change the way you look drastically the next day, and then you look at yourself and your mental image of, who you are and what you're doing, you kind of like start to decline or deteriorate that a little bit.
It's all interconnected for sure.
And so that's something like I could probably do a little bit better at, especially like the meal prepping and the food or planning and stuff. So you were meal prepping for a little bit, weren't you?
For a little bit. It's been hard to make these grocery trips. I've noticed that's been a big block for my meal prepping. We could just go to the grocery store and buy whatever we were missing. And now that's like this huge event where you got to be careful, and you just don't quite want to go sometimes. And, we'll just find something in the house. My guilty pleasure has been cereal. I've been taking it back old school.
So
I've
am
been Lucky Charms, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Wow.
And it's like, you get the bowl, right? You get the bowl and you put the cereal in, and then you take the bowl and the cereal, like, pour the milk in. You take the bowl and the cereal and you eat the cereal, and then you still got milk left over. So you just got to pour yourself another bowl.
There's a new cereal called S'mores.
Oh, I saw that. Okay.
Y'all,
that's good stuff.
I don't have a sweet tooth. I cannot stop eating this cereal, y'all. Like, I have a problem. My wife has to hide this from me. Okay. Real talk, I love this cereal. But I do need to get back. I need to get back on nutrition again, and I think a good way to do that for me is I bought some really high-end supplements. We had a little bit of extra money, and so I splurged a little bit. I got a really high-quality protein, a high-quality pre-workout, and knowing that I invested this money into these products, I want to make them work. So I notice if I have these expensive and delicious-tasting protein shakes, I'm more likely going to use them and stick to that, and not want to eat so poorly because I've invested time and money into these products, and I have a plan set up for myself. So that's helped too a lot with sticking with it. And as far as mental goes, I also invested in some AirPods. Love them.
They make a difference.
Oh my gosh. Cause with my old headphones,
cords,
with my old headphones, they're corded, or they're not, they don't connect right away to my iPhone, and I'm fumbling with it, and it's just a mess. And with AirPods,
that's the most frustrating.
With AirPods, you put them in your ear, it's connected. You take them out, it disconnects. It's that easy. And so I've got Audible. I had the free trial, and I've been listening to tons and tons of books while I'm vacuuming, while I'm doing the dishes, while I'm doing yard work. I'm always listening to an audiobook, just trying to learn something. And what I'm going to end up buying Audible. It's $15 a month. And what really sold it for me was that you can switch books out. So if you have a book and you're not liking it, you can just delete it and just download a new one and just keep doing it. And, that way, switching them out. And so you can.
So you're not paying by the book. You're just paying for the subscription to listen to the book.
Yeah. And you just can listen to as many as you want, as long as you keep switching them out. So
now I know it's called Audible, but does it have the option where if you wanted to read, you can? Or is it only only? Okay.
It's only through,
But I have a lot of airmen who, they prefer that because they can listen to it during their workouts or on their drive or.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, especially like a long drive. I know you make a long commute.
But my go-to for my mental is always been and always will be music. I mean, I'm a old school when it comes to reading. I like the book in front of me, although I have upgraded.
That's why I asked about that,
to my
I like
iPad
it
because I read so much. It used to be a very expensive habit, but now because of the online libraries, I can download pretty much anything. Even the new releases, you can put holds on, and when they become available, they just automatically download to your iPad. So when I drive or when I'm on my workout, for me, it's music. Even just doing housework, I will be more motivated to get it done when I hate it if I have music in. And so, yes, the AirPods, I'm still old school. I'm still connected to a cord right now, but I'm hoping Mother's Day my kids will come around, and chip in and get mom
to get
that.
this podcast out there.
Yeah, so I think quite a bit of key takeaways here is, one, we're in control of the actions that we're doing in this time.
We are.
We absolutely, we cannot control what's going on out in the world, but we can control the way that we're responding to it, and the use of our time and the productivity that comes out of it. The things that we can learn about ourselves, the new skills or new trade that we can do, the improvement with our bodies.
And our relationships.
Our relationships is a big one. I've seen a lot of positive and negative coming through social media where I've seen some people where they were like, what, after this, we're either going to have one more kid or someone's going to be gone, but so, just being able to, implement positive social communication and connection within our relationships, and maintaining our friendships and our other relationships that are outside of that, right? Like even our coworkers and our extended families. So, but yeah, key takeaway is we've got the tools that we need. There's access to resources, and there's a number of things that we can be doing to improve where we stand, so that we come out as either a better person or a better member of our community on the other side.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So I want to say thank you guys very much for being here. We definitely appreciate you guys, your inputs, your examples, and just kind of being vulnerable with us with your challenges.
And just to throw it out there, if anyone listening is struggling, there are a lot of resources and a lot of people who are willing to listen. You know, it doesn't have to be mental health. It can be about anything, you know. So if you're struggling, do reach out to someone and get connected with someone who might be able to offer you some suggestions or solutions to help with whatever you're going through.
Absolutely. There's helping agencies that don't take notes, and everything is,
especially right now, that psychological support, that's the way to go, because you can get all the help you need. And it's, the first, if you're someone who needs something regular, you get 4 freebies. So, it's a great way to get resources and not have to worry about, if you're worried about documentation or anything like that. So there's a lot of different ways to get help out there.
Yeah, and you talked about freebies. It just made me think about Military One Source. Being able to get, essentially you're getting a referral off base if you want to go somewhere into the community. And I think you get 10 free sessions for that. But that's another way to just kind of attack something where you can kind of separate yourself from like a military specific.
Well, and I love being available to the spouses, the dependents, because
normally you don't get to, right?
Yeah, normally in my role it's strictly active duty, so I really love that they're opening it up and letting us help the dependents. I've met a lot of dependents, a lot of spouses that way, and that's been nice.
That's awesome. So absolutely reach out. Remember, you are not alone. We are in this together, and we are going to make it happen. So.